I'm on audio only, so I don't know if y'all can hear me or not, but I cannot hear you.
Okay, Jeff, can you hear me now?
I can now. Yeah, good, Paul. Thank you.
Awesome.
Just
How was your
hold on.
trip?
That was great. I'm almost home. I'm just going through Irvington now, so I'll just be audio for the next 10 minutes, and then I'll be able to get on a real Zoom.
Okay, great. Okay, well, we are going to get this meeting called to order. I have some disorderly people in the room. Yes, I've got some disorderly people in the room. And even when I point them out, they won't listen. All right. Well, we finally got some order in the room. All right. So, everyone remembers our last work session with the board. I can't believe it, but that was September the 9th, and we're already at October the 20th. And to me, the most frustrating thing about this process is the length of time that it's taking. And I am patient because I know that we got 10 very busy people that we're trying to corral for blocks of time at, a couple hours at a time. And that's very difficult. And I appreciate you guys coming. And I would like to set some sort of timeline that we can get through these objectives and strategies in the next 3 months, so that when we get a new board in place, we can bring the whole plan in front of them and say, okay, this is where we are, this is the progress we've made, and we would like to go forward. Okay? Is that a reasonable assumption?
Sounds
Okay.
really good.
All right, which means that we may have to have a meeting in November and December if we can work it out.
All right.
Okay? So, at the supervisors meeting, the work session, we approved on the initiative. The initiative, which our vision is by 2035 to increase the population by 20% of the 20 to 55-year-olds in our county. Okay? And then we approved 5 strategies. These strategies deal with jobs, including public-private partnerships, housing, or lack thereof, education within the school system and technical job training, recreation, and communications and education, okay? Communications and education of the public is going to help us with the private and public partnerships also, in my opinion. So that's where we stand. So the next phase is we take a strategy, and the ones that there is another strategy that I failed to mention, and that's the broadband strategy. Yeah, I'm putting that on the list. Some of these strategies are more under our control and others are not. And when we get to education and we get to broadband, we've got different entities that are working on them, and I believe parts of the recreation strategy is going to have another group. Don't you have an authority for that?
It's not called authority. It's advisory group.
Advisory group.
That's what
Okay.
we're working on right now.
Like we are, an advisory group.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll defer to them for those parts of it, but we'll need to incorporate some verbiage into the plan dealing with those issues. Now, I did talk to Dan a little while ago, and he was planning on coming, but he had a critical issue to come up in the school board office and couldn't make it. He will be presenting some objectives and some goals dealing with teacher retention, teacher pay, and what was the other thing?
Housing?
The school facilities themselves. They are in the process of updating their strategic plan, and part of their objectives and strategies will flow into ours. okay? The Broadband Authority is hard at work, and we're going to need to get some verbiage from them as to what their timelines, goals, and objectives are. So one of the things I wanted to explain to you today is my view of the next steps. And I have on the board, on the PowerPoint, multiple objectives, multiple goals that are achievable, measurable, and with timelines, okay, time sensitive. So what that means is we have a strategy. Say, well, we'll just take recreation, for instance, because it's an easy one to define, and say we recommend to the board that we need 3 access points in the county over the next, by 2035 or over the next 5 years, whatever the timeline we want to establish, right? So we would say our objective in creating this is to attract people that want access to the water, right? Mm-hmm. That's the objective. The goal is to have 3 sites, but it may not just be the goal. The goal may be to have public-private partnership and try to get people next to these sites that have bait and tackle shops, boat rentals, kayak rentals, stand-up paddleboard rentals, whatever it takes to get the different age groups onto the water, right? So when we have a strategy, right? So to me, the hot buttons of strategies today are there's virtually no housing available in the county. And Dan was telling me a little while ago that he can hire people right now, but he can't find them any place to live, okay? Critical problem. So to me, housing and jobs are critical issues that we need to address in this group. So when we talk about the next steps, we'll say, all right, we want to establish some goals for housing, right? And we want them to be achievable, measurable, definable, time sensitive, and what role is the county going to play in it? What role is private enterprise going to play in it? What role can the EDA put into it, if that's a possibility, right? So these are going to be fun, but they also are going to be a little bit tedious to work through. Is everyone okay? Everybody understand?
You do really,
Keep going,
we're
Paul.
all glad
Keep
you're
going.
doing this.
Yeah. Well, Paul, I guess I got a question.
Yes,
On, let's say housing, take the housing thing.
right.
Would one of the, I don't know if it's objective or goal.
All right.
One of the things be, from the county point of view, would be incentive to developers or something like that. Would that fall under?
That's going to be part of a goal.
Okay, that'd
Okay,
be part of a
the
goal.
objective is to introduce, I don't want to use the term in a technical sense, but affordable workforce type housing, and I don't want to attach any legal names to that. Mm-hmm. Just reasonably priced housing into the community.
Yeah,
Right?
okay.
So, and the reason for it is, the objective is to be able to attract a workforce, right? That's what we're trying to do, and that workforce is going to mainly be between 20 and 55-year-old. And so if that's our objective, how can the county help, right?
Okay.
So the county may be able to establish some incentives. Say you have a developer that's willing to put in apartment building or 20 houses in the $200,000 to $300,000 price range, you give them some tax incentives or abatements for a number of years in order to do that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's how one of the ways the county can participate, or the other could be a partnership between a private group and the public entity. So there's different ways that we can structure it. Of course, it's got to be a legal way, and that's where you guys got to keep me straight, because I don't know the, you know, the legal side of that. I know the ways you can create partnerships, but I don't know to what level a county or a municipality may be able to participate in it. So Jeff, you on the line? Could you add anything to that? Clarity?
No, I would agree with all that, Paul. Just point of procedure, I guess. Are we going to be going through each of these subgroups, defining this as our group, or are we going to try to organize subcommittees for each of these to do it? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, and that's a topic of discussion today. Do we need to have subgroups? Do you think it would be better to have a subgroup to address housing? I actually think when we looking at what is it going to, you know, we can articulate what we think it's going to take to bring 20 to 55-year-olds into the county. But I would like to, for us to hire some sort of consulting service to go out to the Richmond Metro, the Washington Metro, the Hampton Roads, and actually get in front of some focus groups and say, you know, with a list of questions that we help to develop, to say, what would it take for your family or someone like you to move to our county? We don't really know that, right? We can have focus groups of folks that are within our county in those age groups, and maybe some that have come in the last year, and ask them why they came and what's going to take to keep them, right? And maybe we should do that too. But we don't need a lot of folks to turn this around. You know, we may be, you know, we lost 1,600 people in the last 20 years, and we're talking about huge metropolitan areas. We're only talking about a fraction, fifth of 1%. What was that? Jeff? Hey, Jeff? Hello?
I'm here, Paul. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just switched off my phone onto my iPad so I can see you now.
Awesome. So you should be seeing the strategy, multiple objectives, multiple goals thing, right?
Yep. I got it.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Paul, just before we tackle getting the focus groups, I mean, just to come back to Jeff's question, in terms of just process,
Yes.
it will be challenging, not impossible. It'll be challenging for a group of 10 or more to try to do goals and objectives and measurables for that entire list in a group setting. It's doable, but it will take far longer because you're still going to have to vet that and you know, have some assimilation of, do we all think that that's the right verbiage, et cetera. I would recommend that we divide and conquer in whatever way format makes sense. In terms of getting a straw together of, here's the goals and objectives and measurables for jobs, same with housing, et cetera. And then we vet them collectively, or in whatever format makes sense, but
Do you think that would help?
we don't have enough time today to get through the list. We might only get one or two done, and then
No.
we've still got to bring the rest of the group back up to speed as to what the thought process was. And we might be better to divide out and then have a future meeting that says, today we're going to review jobs. Here's what's already been provided as goals and objectives. And then then the collective wisdom can wordsmith that or say it's bunk or whatever.
Right.
It's just a
Well,
process issue.
Personally, I think if you got into this jobs situation, we can be here for 2 days discussing.
I agree. I'm not looking forward to that.
But it's one of the biggest issues that we have.
I agree. My only point is if we had a straw of what 4 or 5 goals for jobs could be, then we could start there with 4 or 5 goals as opposed to trying to work the goals up from ground zero.
All right?
It's just a speed issue of how to get to the conversation. That's just my suggestion.
All right?
I guess that was the gist of my question too. I think with the people on the committee, Paul, we could put 2 of us or something in charge of some of these subcommittees so we can still bring the collective wisdom of the group to the process and then get a lot more accomplished faster, and then come back as a committee of a whole with a lot of the legwork done.
I like it. Okay. So we have a couple of these already that, that we have other groups working on, like broadband. So we really just need feedback from that group. We have, for the school system and education, we got Dan and the school board working on that. This technical jobs issue filters into them, but also to us. We do have a VOTEX center, but everywhere I go, every day I hear we need carpenters, we need plumbers, we need electricians, and maybe we need to take some action in addition to what is through the public education process.
Well, we probably need to get with Dan to find out which direction they going
Right.
for, as, you know, the technical side of it. you know.
Yeah, and the community college.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we got to have a meeting with both of those.
yeah.
So we have this recreation strategy and the communication strategy. I think we can tackle those ourselves.
Let me tell you a little bit something about the recreation, because I've been having conversations with one individual that I had been working at Brian Barnes. Three of us been working on this for over a year. And the citizen, I spoke with him this week and last week that's been working with us. And because I need to get his permission to bring it to the board for him to be chairman of the advisory committee. And one of the things we talked about was the timeline, setting timelines and doing all those things. Now, we're kind of off from our projection today, because if I gather right, we want to have something done here by the end of the year that we can present to the new board the beginning of the new year, right? Did I read that right?
That's what we talked about, but you know, we may go into one or two meetings of the new board.
Yeah, because what I was concerned
January,
about,
February.
him and myself agreed that, hey, we get the committee in place in the next 2 months. Then we sit down in January and kind of say, okay, in 90 days, we want to be at this point, you know, and do it that way. So that's why I was kind of concerned about putting something on paper for that part of it. You know, I'm just talking about public access now. That's the only piece, because that's the major piece that we working on. And we got all these little sites around that we looking into, but we gonna have to put the advisory group together, then get them up to speed, where the three of us already up, you know what's going on, but we got to get the other members up to speed, and then we gonna set some timelines for that group to meet. But, you know, we might be, you know, February or something like that, time we, you know, get all that together.
Well, that's fine. I mean, we create what becomes part of the plan that we present is your timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Wherever we can outparcel things to other groups and have some accountability back, that's what we need. I think Jeff would agree. We're all busy and we can't do it all ourselves. So anything that we can do to move the process along with others is going to be great. But no, I agree with you. As I've been pondering this meeting for a while, and it's going to be a lot of fun to try to get into some of these issues, but they're very difficult issues. I mean, this jobs issues, the type of jobs, where we want to get them, how we want to get them, try to establish some measurable goals for technical and skilled workers. And Jimmy has said we have a wonderful opportunity for self-employed people can work from home. Well, how are we going to quantify that? How are we going to wrap our arms around that? How do we want to market it outside the area also? You know, there's a lot of different things that filter in to each one of these. And I'm happy to work with subcommittees, and we could actually start trying to create them today, if you'd like. I would personally like to do that. Wouldn't you? Yeah. All right. So, when we are talking about, let's talk about housing first. Jimmy, I know you've been working sort of independently, and you've got a couple of contractor that's coming in, that's going to be working on some of your vacant lots. So what is your strategy right now with that whole thing?
Right. So at Hills Quarter, I've got 93 fully developed lots that are ready to go. And so I've been very intentional about not trying to sell those lots off ones and twosies because I thought I had more ability to attract a volume builder in if I could lay out a reasonable amount of inventory for them to build on. And the other thing that I'll point out to a builder is that I believe that Hills Quarter is the best off-water project in the county if you're getting off the water, you know, and that there's a lead time there. If someone wanted to go build a new subdivision today, it would probably take them a couple of years to get the entitlements and get the improvements in. So whoever comes in is gonna have the market to themselves for a minute on the top end off water. So to that end, I've got a builder coming in called Stateson Homes, Stateson Homes out of Blacksburg. And the county has met this individual because he just went through a rezoning on a piece of property on Carter's Creek. So David Jones introduced me to him because he was moving in here to build a second home. And he's supposed to start building homes. He's going to mobilize in and starting up in February. And you know, his price point's going to be sort of he's going to start off around the high 200s, and he would like to think that over 12 months that he could move that up to the high 300s and go up from there. So the question is, you know, I don't know if that's I like to lay that premise out because I don't know if it's not exactly workforce housing, but it is housing. And so what I'm beginning to see with these builders are that they're all niche-y, they all have their own lanes. So he, you know, trying to get him to start talking about, well, we have a need for lower cost housing and stuff. Well, they all have their own niches. He said, well, I don't do that. You know, they have their own formulas that they deal in. And so, but he's going to be hitting that market. And another thing that's going on when we start talking about apartments is that I had someone recently come to me. They were actually looking at David Jones' site over there near DMV Drive. And the apartment builder said to David, he said, well, David, if we didn't build on your site, where would be another site? So he brought him over to me. And the guy said, well, David, we clearly don't want your site if we can build over here. This is a much better site. And David was fine with that, you know, David. And so they just did their own market study. They just had a national firm come in and do a market study. And it's their study. I've seen it, but so I'm leery to talk about the results because it's prior, you know, it's their study. But clearly, as we would all imagine, there's a need for apartments. You know, the question is trying to figure out again. These builders build a certain type of apartment. I think that there's a question about where's the sweet spot in terms of pricing on these things. And again, I think that what they're looking at wouldn't be on the low end of the market. They want to hit that mid to high end of the market on these apartments. Now, I don't know if they're going to build them or not, but they are. There's clearly some people are beginning to sniff around. I don't know, Don, if you've seen anybody. Susan, you had someone that was looking at apartments in Kilmarnock. Are they still moving ahead on?
Not yet.
Yeah.
So the question is, what type of enticement?
What type of enticement?
Enticements that you know.
Right.
And then hold on, before you go any further on it.
Right.
You were saying high 2s to high 3s, right? So Jeff, help me out here. My recollection, a mortgage rate somewhere around 3 to 3.5%. It runs about $460, $470 a month per thousand on a 30-year conventional, right? So
I tell you, your mind's better than mine, Paul. Let me
yeah. So to
do that real
me,
fast.
to me, $300,000 loan is going to be about $1,400 a month.
That sounds right. Let me call
Yeah.
up my calculator.
Yeah, he's got a,
Say 13 plus taxes and insurance.
yeah, yeah. And Jeff, are you still using the front-end, back-end ratios, 28-36?
Yeah, those are fairly standard with Freddie and Fannie. You know, there is some, you know, there's low to moderate income, some low to moderate income grant programs through the Federal Home Loan Bank and through some really low down payment products through Freddie also that's meant for, you know, not just first-time home buyers and stuff that carry a little bit lower rates than, you know, it's outreach for them, but there are programs that can help people get into that for 1 to 4 family.
Okay. Well, what I'm trying to back into is what Jimmy is saying that the builder is going to be building and what type of gross family income would qualify for that type of housing, say a $300,000 house.
Yeah, that's my thought.
Yeah, so if we back into that and use your front end ratio, how much income does it going to need to support that $1,300 a month payment?
Yeah, so you're talking, what's the amount we're talking about on the, should I put in
Run
300?
Yeah, run 300,000 at 3.5% for 30 years.
Okay. Yeah, so it's about 13, right? What Roy said, you know, not counting taxes and insurance.
Yeah, that's what I was figuring we were at with it, my recollection of the rates. Okay, so if that's the case, $1,300 a month, what's qualifying income? Front end. We don't need to look at back end, just front end right now.
Yeah, so that would be
55 to 60,
divided by 20.
What'd you say, Roy?
probably about 55 to 60.
About 60,000. 60,000 would be 5,000 a month. 1,300.
Yes, 4,600 a month.
4,600. So we're looking at the $50,000 to $60,000 jobs
Yes,
to support that.
56,000 a year. Yep.
Yeah. So that's I consider that reasonable pricing
Yeah.
for what we want.
What I wonder, let's say 55,000 in that range. So what percentage of working families, you know, would meet that? You know, what percentage do we have, say in Lancaster County right today would meet that income, 55 to 60,000 dollars? I don't know, you know, it just, is it 20% of the families or 30%? And I'm talking about people working.
Yeah.
Right.
And so if you're looking at talking to someone like Dan Russell, right,
Yeah.
who's looking to employ teachers, what are their starting salaries are going to be about 10 grand lower than that, right?
That's right, exactly right, yeah.
So, but if a husband and wife are working, that's well
That's
affordable.
different, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
I think, Paul, there's probably two strategies
Talk to
here.
her, Mike.
Excuse me. There's probably two strategies here, and one is single-family home ownership strategy. Who are the people? What do they have to make? Where do we find them? Are they here now, or are they? We got to go find them and bring them here. And I think the other part of that is, I'm going to call it introductory housing. It may be housing for purchase, or it may be rental. Teachers are coming in, and they come in looking for a rental market. They are not in a position to buy. Folks that are not at $50,000 a year, or a single person who is at below 50, or even dual income who's maybe around 50 to 60, still doesn't buy a home right off the bat. So we still have to have, as part of our strategy, introductory housing that people can rent for some amount of time until they get in the community and get established. And I think we're going to have this multi-pronged approach as it relates to housing.
Okay.
And that's just a
Right.
piece of it. I don't want us to get hung up
Yeah, I agree.
on who can
Yeah.
afford a single-family home and who can't. but because there's a need for both.
No, there is.
Yeah.
There is. I was just in my mind trying to quantify what type of qualifying income you'd need
And that's
for the
important.
housing that's going to be built.
Yeah, that's an important exercise because we have to have dual income to afford a $300,000 house in today's market. We may not have to have that in the future market, but we do in today's market.
Yeah.
What Susan is saying, I guess, we got to have these two things running parallel.
Correct.
Exactly.
Parallel with each other.
Right.
And that's why I was, when Jimmy was talking about the apartments, I was trying to think, I said, okay, it's $900, $1,000 a month. Is that the going rate for apartment, you know, that they building, that they building now? I don't know. I do know what, you know, my daughter was paying when she had an apartment, and it was over $1,000, but that was down in Florida, and it was one of those, you know, nice apartments and stuff like that, but it was over $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
So you're close to a mortgage payment.
You are.
Absolutely. Well, that's just it. You know, you're looking at maybe a $1,300 a month house payment and a $1,000 a month rental payment.
Yeah.
But some people are not willing to commit to buy a house moving into an area new. And so there has to be a dual strategy. So this is a good exercise to show why we need a subcommittee to start, because you're going to need to look at some demographic data, and see the jobs market is going to have to flow into that too. But we do know of one critical need, and that's in teacher housing already, right? And so that's a niche that has to be addressed in the immediate future.
Right. And I think likewise, we've got business, I mean, the Tides End's been trying to figure out how they're gonna house their people, and they're, you know,
Right, and they're in the same salary range. Yeah.
so, yeah. So I think there's a lot of need out there, clearly.
Yeah, there's one stumbling block, though, that we haven't talked about. If you're talking about a $300,000 mortgage, which is what we're talking about, that's a $350,000 home.
Right.
And the stumbling block is you got to come up with that 50,000, and young people can't come up with that unless their parents or whatever are going to put the down
Yeah.
payment on it.
Yeah, but Jeff was
So-
talking about some Freddie Mac programs that have low down payments, 5% down, and first-time home buyer programs and
Right.
things like that, that would help to ease that situation some. But
Sure.
you're still right. Some
Well,
of them
you know,
may
they're-
not
they're
even
gonna-
have 5% to put in.
Yeah, if 5%, that's going to be 15, but,
Yeah.
they're going to have to come up with some money up front, at least,
Right.
probably at least 20,000
Yeah,
between closing and
Sure.
everything else,
absolutely.
so.
So who would like, I think this is a critical committee. I think the Jobs and the Housing Committee are really the most critical committees that we need to address from this group.
I'd be more than happy to chair the Housing Research Committee,
Okay?
yeah.
Who would like to
Can I,
serve on
do you
that?
need help with that?
Yeah, I'll pull some people in, so,
Okay.
yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Jimmy, I can help with that, or
I
I
know
can
you
get
can,
somebody
Jeff.
from the
I'm
bank
looking
to
at
help
you.
with that.
Yeah, you'd be great on this, all the financial analytics. I've already got you.
Okay.
So
All right.
what we're talking about is really, I think, is a lack of housing, period, because everybody's moving in. We talk about how hot the market is.
Yeah.
There's just
I
not
think we can
available
talk-
housing, period.
we can
So
talk
are
to
there
VDAs
incentives for builders?
And see what's going on in these other communities, and, Jeff's obviously got a lot of horsepower in terms of running what the profiles are, what the thresholds are that people need to meet, what the programs are, so good. I'll
Yeah.
start outlining some stuff, and I'll get with you, Roy, and Susan, we can talk about, what we're hearing about on the street in terms of who might be doing what, so I'll get to work on that.
So with that, Jimmy,
Yeah,
there's a tremendous amount of data points online, okay? A lot of analytics that you can find on this community and all the surrounding communities, on price points, housing, income, and start to create some correlations.
good.
Okay. So if we have, who do we have on this group? Jimmy and Jeff, and anyone else?
And Roy's volunteered.
And Roy? I don't know. It looks like a little nepotism going on there. Okay,
The key is who are the other people we bring into it.
Yeah.
That'll be very
Yeah,
helpful
we'll try to get some people
sort of
off the
leverage
committee
us
so
a
we
little
can
bit
leave.
better.
Yeah, good point, yeah. Yeah, we'll look around the community and try to get some people who are not on the committee, so we don't zap all the strength out of the committee.
absolutely,
We'll look-
yeah.
we'll look at-
Well, there's a lot of folks that you can go to, and I know you know 'em, every one of them, so,
Yeah, we can get the David Joneses of the world, that sort of stuff,
yeah, and realtors.
and realtors.
Okay, let's talk about jobs. That's the other big elephant in the room. Okay? So let's start to do a little bit and just a little bit of conversation to stimulate some thought about jobs, and then let's see if we can get a couple of people volunteering to be on this committee also.
Oh, just to lead off the top of my head, one of the things in jobs that we've talked about is how do we retain some of the trades that are going away? So it's like just sort of a base case retention strategy on some of that. I think that needs to be some component of it, whether it's plumbers, carpet, all that stuff that we've talked about. And I think somehow we could get, we need to pull RCC or someone from RCC into this subcommittee too.
I'm so distraught that we lost such a great person at RCC to COVID when
Yeah.
Jason passed last summer.
Jason did?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. He died of complications of COVID.
I'm sort of stunned too, I didn't know that Jackson had died, I missed that,
Yeah, it's,
wow.
yeah. And he was a tremendous resource to us.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
Paul, I think the second prong is the one Jimmy's been talking about a lot is the remote work from home people, capturing them. Do we have not an incubator, but a place like Pam Deal's trying to do or whomever's trying to deal, but those folks that can work remotely and stay here. That's a part of it.
of course, all this flows into the broadband strategy too. So the work from home, that's another component. In your minds, just here, just brainstorming right now for a moment or two, what type of small businesses make sense for this community?
Businesses that bring their own workers, I mean, we don't have a workforce, so we know it's gonna have to be somebody that's either, bringing their workers with them. But whatever that is.
How about some water-based jobs?
Like oystermen and that, yeah.
No, actually, and I can't say a whole lot right now, but I met with a person yesterday who is looking at bringing a catamaran building business to Lancaster County that could possibly generate 40 to 50 jobs.
Wow.
And we looked at a site in Lancaster, it's already zoned industrial, and he was very impressed. They're from Australia, looking at 3 sites in Virginia yesterday and 1 site in North Carolina. They had gone through a whole list, and the one,
And we still on the list.
One of them's in Lancaster.
Right.
But we don't have the first incentive from the county to offer them.
No, but we had the Virginia Economic Development Partnership at that meeting, and there are some state incentives that
Good.
can be thrown at them. So,
Yeah. So also incentives need to be part of this job strategy, okay? I'm gonna put this,
See, I'm of the opinion on something like what you got right there, that the board of supervisors and yourself need to be able to sit down at the turn of a switch and say, hey, we need to do this to try to attract this company here. Not, 6 months from now or nothing like that. You need to be able to, I always say, turn on a dime and sit down and make the decision, okay, we gonna offer this incentive.
Yeah,
We gotta make sure it's legal, but.
Yeah, but Bill, you also got to remember, if whoever, if we have an economic development director, he'd be the one working with them, but Don's working with them. Now, it would be nice to say, okay, for new business startups that are going to bring us 10 to 50 jobs, we're going to offer tax abatement of 50% for the next 20 years, and and that kind of thing. Right off the get-go,
Yeah.
already in place, rather than to try to do it piecemeal.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna
That's
vet
something
that before they even get here.
Yeah, you see, hear what Susan just said. You got to talk into the mic,
Oh,
Susan.
I'm sorry. I just said that having that up front,
Oh.
that stuff's going to get vetted long before Don gets the call. You'll get vetted in or out based on that. And sometimes the incentives will bring them in, but you can't negotiate it after the fact.
Well,
You can add to it. I mean, you can add to it and you can augment the
Yeah.
boilerplate, but your boilerplate's got to be ready and known, and
Right.
Virginia
Right.
EDP
Right.
works with it. all
We
that good
got to
stuff.
address this. We
Yeah,
really need
we
to
do.
address that.
We do.
And this will be a good live example, Don, I mean, in terms of for you to go through it, because you'll be able to see, well, what does Virginia Economic Development, what are they offering? So that will help this committee to say, here are the types of things we're hearing that are right there. We've got a live example. That's gonna be helpful.
All right. Good. So we're starting to create a list, right? Now, I actually have some slides from an earlier discussion. Let me see if I could find them, where we talked about the strategies. And let's see if I am. Here's one dealing with that, economic development as a priority at the county government level. Yeah, bullet 2, county must be prepared to provide tax incentives and other stimulative measures to attract the types of businesses we want to attract. Let's see. Let me see. Creating a business environment. This is some of the previous work we've done. In order to attract a younger age group, we must create a business-friendly environment. This should include tax incentives from counties and towns, an EDA grant program, resources to help with technical training for meeting business needs, a proactive partnership with the community college, possibly spearheaded by the economic development director, central location for all new business inquiries, website and dynamic social media should be pursued, catalog of community resources, and office sharing co-work environment. So, I think from what we discussed today and what we discussed previously, I think we got a good framework to get a subcommittee started, where we can actually look at some of these businesses that bring their own workers, or maybe a business guy moves down here and wants to open up. I had an inquiry, this was asking me, it was not one of my clients, but a friend of one of my clients said, I got your name and I'm calling you because I understand that you have the pulse of what's going on in this community. And of course I said, I'm not really. But he said, what I'm looking for, he says, I'm moving down here and I have an online business that has a call center. And I expect that I would need 10 to 15 people and a location in this community to run a call center. He said the jobs would be $25,000 to $40,000 a year jobs at this call center. First, do you guys have a workforce that I can draw on? And second, is there any facilities that may stand ready in the neighborhood, 3,000, 4,000 square foot, that could handle my business? And so, that would be an inquiry that you would receive, or an economic development director would receive, and you should be able to answer that right on the spot, right? So my answer was, we can go to the community college, you give the skill sets that you need, we'll try to recruit those people. And as far as building goes, I know a couple of guys that have some facilities that may be available that size. So I think we could handle things like that if we had a central location and say, hey, by the way, we have these tax incentives too, as a stimulant. But this was a guy that was moving in. He's got a business, I think, in Baltimore, and he just wants to relocate it down here. But he's not going to bring people down here with that kind of
Right,
salaries.
right.
So, so who would like to be on a jobs committee to do the research? I'll be glad to serve on that one.
I'll do that too, Paul.
You wanna
I'm
do
just
that
trying
too?
to think, does the group have any brainstorming of people not on our group that could be also on that committee?
Yeah, I've got a couple ideas, Jeff. I'm thinking maybe, I was thinking about some of our employers, for example. I met this morning with Marston Smith over the Tides Inn. I think that he's a bright bulb. Maybe having someone who understands what their needs are. Marston, I think, might entertain.
What's the fellow that's running it now?
Jason Trollope.
Jason, yeah.
I mean, yeah, and Marston actually grew up in the Warsaw area. He's got a regional sense, and he's a younger guy. He just bought a home in Irvington. So he's a good model for us of someone who just recently moved in here, and he's well respected over there.
I also have my next door neighbor is 39 years old, and she has 2 kids, and she was up in Alexandria area working in economic development up there, and she said she'd like to join a subcommittee.
I think we could
That'd
look
be
at
great.
somebody to see if
Yeah.
somebody from MTech may at least talk about what their situation is and you know, what their future is and what their obstacles are and that type of stuff. Sort of that sweet spot of technology that might be helpful. We might want to explore who we got over there that might weigh in.
And MTech, is
Yeah.
the Williams still involved with that, Greg? And
I
He's-
think
he sold
they
it.
may have
he sold it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they were your customers, weren't they, Jeff?
Can't say that.
Oh,
That'd violate confidentiality.
I'm
Paul.
sorry. I'm sorry, Jeff. Do you know anyone in the company that we can contact? Sound like an attorney. Let me rephrase the question.
Yeah, I have not talked to either of them in a long time because they moved a lot of their stuff up toward Quantico and stuff, despite what they had down here, but I could track them down. Further in the list though, Paul, you know, you rattled off some, I think you're talking about what kind of jobs we need. I think
Yeah,
just sort of at the most fundamental level, you talked about, you know, kayak rentals, you know, bait, just stuff that supports our the infrastructure that we're trying to build out to support tourism. There's a whole class of jobs that could fall under that category that at the end of the day, we would want to have.
right, perfect. I'm adding it to the list. Can you see me? Or are you?
I
looking-
can't now, but
Okay.
if you talk from over there, it'll switch over there. There you go. Now I can.
Yeah, I'm writing some of this stuff down as we have ideas so that I can transcribe it.
Paul, we're
Job-
also seeing
jobs
if we
that-
can find a sort of someone there at Central Casting who's moved here to work from here. You know, someone who's done that and sort of hear their sort of sensibilities about things. I'm just thinking of
Well,
classification.
Jimmy, Paul just mentioned he had a 39-year-old neighbor.
There you
Yeah.
go. Right.
And, you know, that brings up a good point. I think a lot of times when we get into committees and talk about trying to keep young people here, we don't have any young people speaking to us of what young people want.
Amen. I agree.
And, you know, we're trying to determine what they want. Now, we go through town and you see signs everywhere, you know, jobs available, and starting at a lot of them, $15 an hour, that's $30,000 a year, and they still can't find the people. And it's because young people, it's not that jobs aren't here, it's just that some of the infrastructure, what they want, the grub hubs and different things that you get in urban areas, we don't have that. So I think, you know, if we have a young person, we had
What I love
the
about
owner
Lancaster
of,
County is we start thinking that people are young at 39. Those kids.
well, you know, we had the owner of Northern Neck Burger come and talk to us in April at our EDA
Right.
meeting, because we wanted to get a younger business owner's perspective on business here in, in the county and.
Probably
and
someone to talk to too, yeah.
You know, and they're even offering, I mean, a lot of these businesses are offering incentives, $100, to join they probably pay that after 90 days or so, but when you were talking about people coming into town at $25,000 to $40,000 a year for, that's 12, 15 an hour to 20 an hour, and we're talking about VOTEC. I mean, kids that are getting out, going into HVAC and plumbing and everything, they're starting out at 25. That's 50,000 a year.
Yeah, that's right.
So, people can make the salaries to buy some of the affordable homes and everything. It's just that there's something else missing that's not keeping them here. And
Right.
We got to really zone in on that and have young people tell us. I mean, we are getting a Starbucks. We just got a Domino's pizza. And we're getting some other things, but, we've got to have that. We have to have some of that infrastructure here to keep younger people here.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
Okay.
we need to talk to your 39-year-old neighbor.
Yes, we do. And she's really anxious to do that, too. She's very excited about, she read the article in the newspaper, and she came over and said, I really want to help you guys. I want to be part of this. So this would be a good committee to get her on.
Good.
Yeah,
Maybe Jason,
yeah, Jason.
he knows younger business people here, and maybe he could bring somebody,
Sure.
give us a perspective.
Yeah, I mean, go with some of these guys that are, Brian Bird over at
At Dredge.
Dredge, yeah. Karen and I go in there for dinner. I'll see if he wants to serve on a subcommittee like this. Be good to get his input.
Hey, Jimmy, what's the workshop digital guy's name again? Brain creeping.
Right, Brian,
Forrester.
Forrester.
Forrester, yeah.
Right, amazing talent, so, yeah. So Brian Forrester, I don't know, for people don't know, Brian grew up here in the upper end of Langston County. His mother was a school teacher, his father was, what did his father?
Is that Gene's son?
It's, I'm confused. His father also, I wanna say his father worked in in a sort of a local job too. I'm trying to remember. Anyway, Brian has a company in Richmond called Workshop Digital, and I'm probably bastardizing what he does, but it's my understanding what he does. It takes modern platforms like TikTok and Facebook and all those types of new mediums, and helps companies get on those things to drive their markets. And so, I mean, I think he's got like 40 people working for him in Richmond. There's a building down there in
Scott's Edition.
Scott's Edition, a new building, and he took like the whole first floor. I mean, he's a real high-profile business guy in Richmond, getting all the awards of, of being, and anyway, he's in Irvington now, living in Irvington and full-time and commuting to Richmond as needed, and he definitely wants to be involved. He's in the Irvington Business Advisor,
Oh, man, that's
and
awesome.
What's his name?
He's an amazing, smart, cutting-edge guy. So he would love to
He would
do
be
this
great.
type of stuff.
What's his last name?
Brian Forrester.
Forrester.
Forrester. Okay.
Who's that?
It's not Ray Forrester. Ray Forrester only had one son.
I'm not sure. I know. I'm trying to.
Are you talking about the builder?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not Ray's
I
son.
know, it wasn't, I don't think his father was a builder. I'm trying to remember what he said his father did.
Is it Cameron's?
No, not Cameron. Cameron used to work with me. It's Jimmy's right. The mom was in the school system. I think it was a Margaret Forrester was his mom, I believe.
Yeah.
Bobby Forrester's son. That's who it is. Bobby Forrester's passed away. Yeah, Margaret taught school and taught music. And
Okay.
That's who it is, yes.
So anyway, this guy is terrific.
Okay, so,
James.
so I've got, right now, we don't want to get the committees too big, because
Right.
we'll never have time to
That's right.
it's just like our group, we can't get everybody together. So I have myself, Jeff, Marston Smith was mentioned.
Right.
Lisa McLaughlin is the one, my neighbor. I mentioned Brian Bird. You guys have mentioned Brian Forrester.
Yeah, Brian hits a lot of things. He hits young, tech, all those sorts of stuff. I would really move him to the top of any list. That was a great
All right.
idea. I know
All right, so we need to get contact information for some of these
I've got
folks.
his.
all right? And I think Julian would also be good on this committee, don't you?
Yeah, since he's not here, he should probably chair it.
Julian is going to chair the Jobs Committee. Right.
It gives us more incentive to show up, right?
Julian. All right. All right, that, to me, that makes sense. Jeff, thank you for trying to do double duty here. I appreciate that.
And I think, Paul, as we get into it, I think we're going to find some of these subcommittee members are far better than any of us on our committee at doing that segment of it. So I think as long as we have somebody from our committee as sort of quarterbacking it, I think we can pull ourselves out of some of these and focus elsewhere to leverage ourselves a little bit better. Because it doesn't do us any good as hard as we are to schedule now if we end up being on every subcommittee ourselves.
Right.
And then we're just,
Right.
we're doubling down on busy, I think.
Yeah. Okay, good. We've got about 30 minutes left if we want to use it. But when I go back to the different strategies that we developed, we talked about the jobs and the housing. We got the education that Dan is going to be working on. We got
Hey, Paul,
broadband
can I
authority.
interject on the education real fast? I think sort of what Bill was hitting on, Bill, you tell me if I'm wrong. The education strategic plan is going to be obviously far more encompassing, and it might not address the economic impacts of an education plan, which is what we're really getting at. So I think I don't think we just can totally say, oh, Dan, your plan is what we need. I think, and maybe I'm overthinking it, but is that what you were saying, Bill?
Yeah.
Make sure that.
That's right. I'm not sure we don't know what Dan's plan is.
Well, Dan said that they haven't really addressed, it's hard to even say this, they haven't really addressed the situation strategically, and they need to update their plan. And he told me they would welcome the input that from our group into that plan to help them create some of the desired results that we would like to see as a community. Okay?
Okay. So that might be a chicken or the egg thing. We might need to see which direction they're going to figure out how we plug in and vice versa.
Right.
My concern is that they come up with a very comprehensive educational strategic plan that is really just, academic rubric focused, teacher comp focused, which is all important, but doesn't really have the tie into economic development that we're trying to present. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah, but it could have a beneficial effect on economic development in the sense that people looking to come into this area may be impressed with the school system, and it may be a reason for them to say, yeah, we like the community, we like, the school system is fine. I still remember back in 1994 when we made a decision to move here, one of our, with a child in the third grade and one in kindergarten, it was difficult when we looked at the school systems. And I know Karen twice said, we can't move up there. The public system, they were in York County Public Schools, and they were in a really good environment there. And they had, and we struggled with the decision to move up here. Now, that, if there was a dynamic school system, it would have been a no-brainer, okay? Because we liked everything else. And so what I'm saying is, yeah, they need to get that academic side correct and right, but also, I hear what you guys are saying. They need some input from us as to where we want to go as a county too, to get high school students ready for the job market we want to create. That what we're talking about?
That's part of it.
Right.
And that we have a school system that, based on your situation, that attracts people here and it's not a deterrent to economic development. So
I think there just needs to be a little, and maybe it is Dan, just a little tighter plug into what our group workings are versus what his strategic plan workings are. That there's a thread that ties them together a little bit. Because I could see it not go on an entirely disparate path, but maybe not one that integrates well with what we're trying to accomplish either.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm envisioning a problem where there is none, but it's just making sure we don't let that horse get out of the barn too far and go, whoa, this is not what we were thinking at all.
Right, exactly. And there's another section on this too that we've dealt with before, and that's technical jobs, a trade school type situation. And so I think we need to get input from Dan on that, as well as from RCC. And so,
Right.
and I don't know if Dan will coordinate that section of it, so we will need to really see if we can get someone in our group to sort of spearhead that with Dan and RCC. Okay?
Right, I think that was a good discussion, because I think that's good, because it breaks down, it really clarifies for me. The education is sort of two-bladed. One of them is preparing our youth for jobs, but the other thing is, it severely affects people moving here that want to move here and be in our job force if we don't have a good educational system. So
Right.
I like that duality conversation.
Yeah, All right. I think one of the most important items on the list as far as strategies goes, and I know I harp on this all the time, is this education, public education and communication strategy. I think we really need to get this right. If we get it right, we're not going to have a tremendous number of NIMBYs in this room protesting everything that we do.
You always have that.
Yeah. But we also may have a bunch of more people,
Right, Don?
we also may have a bunch of more people
Welcome to my
supporting
world.
what we do, right?
That's the problem, because the only people that ever show up at meetings are the people who are complaining about something or are against it.
Yeah.
Don, I wish you'd do something about those damn pigs.
I've only heard that a couple hundred times in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. I'm glad it's John Martin's problem.
You're hiring a poacher, aren't you? Is that what you're doing? Taking scalps?
You know, in all honesty though, that type of stuff on the front page of our newspaper for people who are coming here does not add to the allure of our county.
It
No.
does not, it does not.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as an aside, we're meeting with the Department of Wildlife Resources tomorrow on site to try to figure out a way to round up the pigs that are still outside of the fence and put them back inside the fence. And hopefully she has fortified her fence so that they won't get back out
Tell them
again.
rifles
So
what you need.
we're working
You
on
just
that.
need to give William Barnhart a temporary a restaurant permit for the northern part of the county for a drive-through barbecue, and it'll solve itself.
I got people that want to go down there and do that right and left, but, you know, these are basically pets, and you can't do that.
They're delicious though.
Hey, Paul, I'd be
You
willing
can't
to
call
help
it a
on
wild
the,
boar hunt?
Feral pig.
Yeah. Paul, I'd be willing to help on the public education part, or communication strategy, or whatever you want to call that.
Yeah, I do too. And I think if we get this right, it also can flow into job creation and growth as we get more people interested in what we're doing and talking about what we're doing and want to become involved. So I think it's going to have, you know, maybe get the public awareness and support, and the other is beyond support, and maybe it helps to develop some new business and some public-private partnership. Yeah, this has been one of my pet thoughts since the very beginning, so I'll serve on this committee also.
As will I, Paul,
And
if you need some more help.
Okay, great. So that's,
Susan, I think you would be great on that.
My hand's in the air. After I finish
I think
my
part of-
feral pig killing. Because Don's got some exciting work to be done here on behalf of the county.
Paul, maybe write down next to that, Jimmy, I mean, to that also, I think there's a defensive part to that strategy and an outreach offensive part, and they would probably look a little different. And on the defensive side, I think, it's like that old adage, dig your well before you're thirsty. I think some of the stuff, we got to get way out ahead before we start presenting stuff so that it's not like, whoa, what are they doing? To sort of till the soil early so they're not any big surprises. I don't know. I'm more naive on this than I know Bill and Don probably get arrows shot in their back daily, so they're probably more familiar with it than I am. But I think the magic of some of that is who you're putting out at the front of that tip of that spear, who's communicating it. It can't be obviously a Susan. We got to have some sort of universal donor spokespeople who have the street cred that they're not killing themselves by doing that either.
Okay.
We'll talk about
So
street cred.
I don't really understand everything you just said.
Okay, that's right.
You got to simplify it for me.
Let's say it's multifaceted, I think.
Yeah.
Some of it is laying the groundwork for the plan that we hope we're going to be presenting. And the proactive outbound part is what we were talking about, is the attraction and bringing people here and retaining people. But
What Jeff is saying, Paul, is that we got to make the case for what is the problem that we're trying to fix. What problem faces the county if we do nothing?
Okay.
And therefore, we have now this six-pronged approach to go after fixing that problem.
Right.
Because if we don't convince people that there's a problem, and a portion of the community will not agree that there's a problem,
Okay.
but some portion will.
So that's what you're talking about is the rationale for our
Correct.
initiative.
That's correct.
So
Yeah,
that's
much better
why
put.
I printed that off. So Jeff, you don't have that, but it's the same as the slide presentation.
yep,
We need to work on this. This is our case statement, elevator speech, whatever you want to call it. So these are the points that need to be made, and others that we think about as we go along. Now, Jeff, was one of the things that you were saying that maybe we don't start to go public right now, but wait till we to get a little bit further down in the process? What's your view on that?
I was thinking more what Susan was saying. Before we come up with a solution, making the case for the problem. So I would not wait too long on that. And I
Yeah.
also think as a little tactical thing, I think we can somehow enjoin the support of the lead Northern Neck, or the new name for that, of those graduates. They're not all Lancaster County, but we do have a small army of people who are versed in what's going on pretty well, and why they should be an easy sell as to why this need's there, in my opinion.
And I think also, Jeff, I think I heard you, you got to have the right people actually talking this talk to. You just
Correct.
can't, some people just won't be received. That's all it is to it.
Right, you got to have the right people. Like a couple of years ago, when we were getting started, I think you were at that Rotary meeting where I spoke about the problem,
Yeah,
and I think that was pretty well received, wasn't it, Bill?
it was well received. Yeah.
And those groups in the Rotary, they came back and said, what could we do to help? And I think hitting groups like that again, with the right people speaking, is important.
It's important. Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure I'm the right person to do all of it, but I know of people like Jeff and Julian and Jimmy that can go in front of a group and be very, very convincing.
And I think the demographics of the group,
And have the community stature to do it.
yeah, and I think the demographics of the group might dictate who that speaker is also.
Well, and not only the
you know, we-
demographics, but where you're meeting, the location you're
Right.
meeting in. Those things are important to people. Some people just don't gravitate to certain certain spots. That's all it is to it. And you got, it's this old saying, you got to meet the people where they are.
Right.
But that's a
Totally
community, that's all part of the strategy of who are you talking to and how are you carrying the message? And I think that's a tactical how-to once you've got the elevator speech finally crafted and you've selected all of the bodies that need to learn and kind of do that. It's a wave approach of, phase 1, lead Northern Neck, phase 2, Rotary social clubs, phase 3, church communities, phase 4. And at some point, you got to go to the NIMBYs, and hopefully you've got you've got the 80% in the house, so to speak, and the 20% NIMBYs. You still have to address.
This whole education thing makes me think about when we set up the school committee, there were some people on there well, I won't use any names, but there were some people
I
on the
understand.
committee that I thought would never want to spend $1 on schools, but we wanted to engage them early. And once we went through the educational process of looking at the schools and looking at aspirational schools, and once they really bared down on it, the people who were the hawks about what not spending money turned out to be the most liberals
That's
who
right.
were saying, we gotta do this,
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
so,
right.
so there is.
Turned around 108. I know the people, I know.
So
I
there
know
is
that-
something in
yeah.
terms of this,
Right.
we know that effective communication can drive support,
Right.
yeah.
I really do, and I'm excited to work on that with you guys. So Susan and myself, and who else?
Jeff.
Jeff?
Jeff?
I said I
Jeff's
would,
on
yeah.
everything.
Are you gonna want to be on that too, Jeff?
Yeah.
You got a job anymore?
Well, I think, but, well,
Since he's
that's
no
what I said
longer
before. I
running
think we're-
Bank America.
Ah,
Yeah. Once we get some good folks in these subcommittees, I think we can, it'll be painfully obvious why we need to back away, I think.
yes, I agree with you there. All right. There's one more committee that we can talk about, but I hate to talk about that one without Jason here, because I know he's big on that. That's the recreation committee.
Right.
And maybe we just ought to hold that. But because I think that,
Since he's not here, we can say Jason's gonna lead that committee.
all right, and hold on,
All those in favor?
Well,
hey, Bill?
I think Jason and Bill certainly should be on that, and county staff can help with that as well, because we've got some things,
Yeah.
planned right now. And then the person that Bill was talking about can help as well. And,
Yeah, that person definitely we want to be on the
So I-
committee. Like I said, Paul, we've been actually working on this for over a year now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and one thing I don't want to do is alienate somebody that's gonna put a lot of time and effort into this. And we have a citizen that's really put some time into it, looking into it.
Okay, so when you
Perfect.
start looking at, well, I'm going to put a couple of things down here because I think they're important that the committee be able to address. So with recreation, do you think a 20-year-old is interested in the same things a 50-year-old is interested in?
No.
Maybe not everything, but
Not
some things.
some things. Maybe fishing may transcend from 5-year-old to 95-year-old, right? But 20-year-old may be more interested in the Triway Trail, and
Well, I'm interested in that. And I'm
Yeah.
in the
Yeah, and
50
I'd like
group.
to,
You're
and
21.
I'm willing to be on this committee to be able to weigh in on the
Yeah.
trail component of that.
Yeah.
all right.
And-
So when we talk about recreation, it's beyond public access, right? Public access is a part of it. Actually, parks is another part of it. But there's going to be other components. If you have a 35-year-old mother and husband with two small kids, do we have the type of programs for the children, soccer, whatever, and youth basketball, softball, whatever? And so I think that who's ever chairing this committee needs to be talking to the current providers, whether it's the YMCA, the Youth League, Boys and Girls Club, and start trying to figure out where gaps may be, and start talking to young parents on what they'd like to see their children involved in.
Right.
Okay? So
Well,
it's,
I'll be on that committee. I got relationship with YMCA, because you know that. I got relationship with the Boys and Girls Club also.
yes. Uh-huh.
So, I mean, I don't mind serving on that committee, and I certainly will talk to both of those. And you know, if
and then-
Jason don't want to chair it, I'll chair it. You know, I don't know
Oh,
what
good.
Jason.
Well, why don't we just go ahead and put Bill on it right now as chair?
He's here.
Close, what's,
Okay.
But in fact, Liz and myself had a conversation yesterday, and I found her, well, I said yesterday, a couple of days ago, I found her something they are doing that I wasn't aware of, you know. So there's some things in the works already. and
Yeah,
so, you know.
yeah, and so with this recreation, I can't emphasize that enough.
Right.
We got to be age appropriate, and we got to look at all aspects of it within the county.
so Paul, along that line,
Paul,
as
I
an
think-
as an example, yesterday, for Monday and Tuesday, we had, on the trails, we've hired a national consultant to come in now to help us put together you know, we need someone with trail experience. So they were in town Monday and Tuesday. And we had a long conversation about the age appropriateness of the trail. How do we make it more appealing to all age groups? And so we were speculating about some different nodes of activities along the trail. In the town, for example, behind the current town park is the old dump back there. Susan had brought up at one point, or Marshall had brought up the idea of that maybe the old town park, I mean, the dump back there, it's already all sort of moguled and everything. Maybe that could be a BMX bike track back there, you know? So then we said, okay, well, let's have these different nodes of activity that could potentially come off the trail that would
Skateboard
be more
parks.
age appropriate. So we're looking.
Skateboard parks, things like that.
So then we
yeah.
talked about, I've been wanting for a long time to put in an exercise circuit. Right now, you've got, between the Y and the hospital, there's that woods.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to open that up to create more of a health campus, a unified campus, and so I already talked to Bon Secours about saying, well, why don't we take our property in there and build a fitness, you know, one of those stations. So
Circuits.
then the Y could come out there and use it outside. You know, the hospital employees, we could use it for rehabilitation from the rehab center. And it would create more of a unified campus between that and the hospital. And so yesterday we were saying, all right, that would be a great node to come off of the trail. Another thing, I've been wanting to build a sculpture garden at Hills Quarter as a amenity, sort of a artsy-fartsy amenity to help maybe people would like to live in apartments around that, or artsy-fartsy is a state-of-art term. And, or a business would like to see that as an amenity. So we're saying, okay, well, that could be a node. You know, we looked at Fisher's Pit the other day, and we were saying, okay, now Mount Ransom's bought sort of the one part of the pit, and maybe we could get some public funding and get the Fishers out of the other side, and we could have, like, off of the trail, we could have a children's fish pond, have a little something that goes out in the pond, and you could just have a bunch of little fishing rods with bobbers on it, and the kids could come out there and fish, and, you know, that could be something, an age-appropriate type of thing. We're doing the disc golf over at Hills Quarter. So we're trying to figure out, when you talk about age-appropriate recreation, there's a good example of what we were working on in the last 2 days, about trying to figure out how we could start doing age-appropriate recreational activities around the trail. So that's, yeah, we're into that, and I would look forward to weighing into that on this committee.
All right, so I got Bill, Jason, and Jimmy.
Right.
And
Hey,
I've got these
Paula?
notes. Yes.
Real quick, I think you might have mentioned this one of the meetings several times ago, but I think somewhere in the recreation has to be the arts. You know, not just
Yes.
outside
That's what I
sweating
said
and
on that
stuff.
sculpture garden, yeah, I'm focusing down
Yeah.
on that. And also, about 2 months ago, there's a guy named Paul DiPasquale. He's Virginia's best sculpture artist. He's the one who did the Arthur Ashe Monument on Monument Avenue. He's the one who did the Neptune down there at Virginia Beach. So Paul's Virginia's leading sculpture artist. So I had Paul down about 3 months ago and told him that we wanted to try to figure out how to do an arts focus in this community. And he said he's on board to help us. And so we've got a marquee name to sort of to help us in terms of going down that road. So I'm working on that too.
That's awesome.
Sure.
You get somebody from RFA on that committee
Right.
too.
Yeah, that's what I was
Handle
thinking,
that.
yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, start engaging the community in some of these, and that's why you build support too.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I got on that group, Bill, Jason, and Jimmy taking the lead. We've got some notes from previous meetings on it, and I got the notes for today. They'll be consolidated, so you'll get those notes with the update of the PowerPoint. So the committee chairs could go to those sections of the PowerPoint and look at the relevant information that we've already created. And then, of course, Susan and I will continue to refine, and Jeff will continue to refine these initiative rationale statement, because that's going to be the talking points in front of our different groups, right? And so we want to make sure we got that right. And we'll do that out of communications, and then we could actually set up some sort of speakers bureau too. We
For
see
sure.
what the audience is, see who the best match is to go to that audience. I think it'd be great.
Hey, Paul, can I add one other thing too before I have the utmost faith in everyone, including myself, on these committees, but I think we need to maybe give some structure as to what we expect back when we convene as a group. Otherwise, it could be all over the board. So not to be overly prescriptive, but, whatever, committee membership, like if they have an initial meeting, what are like the short, intermediate, and longer term goals that they would list out? Are there budgetary impacts for some of these initiatives? Not that we're going to hold anyone to it, but if something's going to cost $150,000 versus something's free, that'd be nice to be able to evaluate that when we get back together. I don't know, those are just off the top of my head, but I'm worried that we'll get a lot of disparate information back in, and we'll spend a lot of time trying to reach some commonality of presentation for it. So I think if we do it right on the front end, it might be a little bit easier for us, would be my thought.
Oh, okay, how about, Jeff, that when I send out the updated PowerPoint from this meeting, I set up a slide for a committee reporting structure, and then I'll do that sort of in draft, and then you guys could all look at it and say, hey, Paul, you need to add this or take this out, and we'll cultivate it that way so that we all have some sort of common structure for reporting.
Yeah,
But
I
I
agree
got-
with Jeff 100%. I
Yeah.
was writing that down too as I was going,
Yeah.
sort of saying, I think each committee chair has got to articulate what is it we're trying to do, and what are the deliverables, and all
Right.
of that. You're
Yeah,
exactly right, Jeff. If we don't do that up front, we're not going to have any structure. It's just going to get too loosey-goosey.
Well, you're basically looking for objectives and goals.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
a template will fix that.
Yeah.
Good, Paul.
It'll-
Right.
The other strategy you got on this broadband, won't you just put myself and Don down? Because we're going to have the information.
Yeah.
Don going to have most all of it in-house.
Yeah, the Broadband Authority has already put down goals and objectives and presented it to the Board of Supervisors, and, they've got a plan in place. We've talked about before, this partnership with Dominion, Northern Neck Electric, All Points Broadband, supposed to begin in late summer of next year and be completed by the end of 2024. And when that's done, every unserved home in Lancaster County will be served with fiber. So, that's the end goal.
Yeah.
And so that's already there in place. So I can provide you what they've already provided to the Board of Supervisors as far as goals and objectives go. and you all can vet that as a group.
Right,
whenever we
yeah.
And I think the only thing needed, Don, then is just status updates, you know,
Yeah.
where are we, you know?
Right.
Are we on target
Yeah.
yeah, so.
Yeah, that'd be good. With the timelines, that's exactly what we're looking for, the goals, the tangible results, the progress reports towards those results. All right. Well,
I want to mention one thing about recreation. I was sort of a little bit late to this game. Just in the last month, I've gone over to Compass a couple times. Never been there.
oh, wow.
And I got
Is your mic on, Roy? I'm sorry, I cannot hear you.
You got the green light?
going to Compass.
Got the green light on.
Is that green light on?
Yeah, now it is.
Okay, there we go.
Good,
Jeff,
thank
I was
you.
talking about going to Compass. I hadn't been there previously until this month. I had seen the facility, but I'd never been in there. And I got a couple different groups to go over and play miniature golf. We had a blast. And then this past weekend, we played golf, and then we went in and watched one of the movies, the new James Bond movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, to sit in those chairs and push those buttons is like, holy, I felt like I was in a private 747 or something. You know, that's I mean, for a lot of people, it's an undiscovered
Yeah.
place. We need to get more people there, because you talk about recreation, they've got
Yeah.
every age group there just about
Oh, yeah.
imaginable.
And
I've actually taken a nice nap in one of those movies.
I'll tell you,
Movie was boring, but the seating was awesome.
Yeah.
the restaurant is very good as
Yeah.
well.
Good.
And
It is.
Julian told me some time ago that he's trying to put together a plan to have an ice skating rink out there.
He's done it.
He's done
They
it.
pulled the
That's what I've
trigger on it.
heard.
All right, so
Yeah.
that's,
That went public
that's coming.
Friday night.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's
Awesome.
awesome.
That's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Do we need Julian on that committee too?
Yeah. Yeah, because he's
All
into
right,
recreation.
Julian. Wait till I talk to you tomorrow.
That's right. Yeah.
He'll never miss another meeting.
That's right.
Well, you know, like a bowling league or softball league, you know, we ought to have miniature golf leagues or something there that, you know, have competition. Maybe we could have the Board of Supervisors versus the EDA or something.
There you go.
In a go-kart race.
There you go.
Okay.
I'll bring in a ringer for that.
So, guys, guess what? We're at a hard stop, and we finished to where we needed to be.
All right.
All right, and
Good
so
job, Paul.
we have all the strategies. We have some committee folks assigned to each strategy. We've got some other data to present to each one of those committees to work with as sort of starting points for their strategies or developing of goals and objectives. When I get all this material out, probably in about a week, I will also have some sort of reporting structure with the types of goals and objectives we're looking for. And I'm really excited about it. It's been a great meeting today, and I really appreciate everyone's input, and it's going to be challenging. We still got a couple committee members we got to get plugged in, and one is Ty Brent. So we'll get. I will arbitrarily assign him to everything. So
It'd be important on this real estate committee.
we'll put him on the housing committee.
Right.
All right.
And Paul, just sort of as in the master of the obvious comment, and Bill, we might need your help with this. We need to make sure we have sufficient diversity on these committees. And it's
Right.
not just, people that we quote already know. So it's a broader based appeal when it finally gets to whatever fruition looks like for it. We need to make sure we do that. And then also just keep a radar up for any talent that we run across in the next month going, I don't know if that person, we need to figure out a way to plug that person in somehow.
Yeah.
So those are
Let me-
just
let me ask
two
you-
thoughts I have on that.
Let me ask this question, because you mentioned that, and I was thinking of that the whole time and two people I thought of, and they don't live in Lancaster.
Ah,
And how much difference do that make?
well, I'm sort of neutral on it, but it would be nice to have Lancaster people
I
that
know
are
it,
invested
I
in
know
the
it,
community.
and I just thought of two good people, and neither one of them might do it anyhow, but both of them live in Northumberland. Both of them actually was raised and born and went to school in Lancaster, graduated from school, went away, come back, but they live in Northumberland now.
I don't think it's a problem.
I don't either.
But, yeah, I think to get their input.
Yeah,
Now, you know, the other, one person that keeps on coming to my mind that, just get your feedback on is Kim Buns.
yeah.
What about Kim? I think she may.
Well, Kim would make a good one, yeah,
Yeah.
no question about it, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
She's, I may ask her about the Jobs Committee. She
Yeah.
may be really good on that.
Yeah. There's some people around that we can tap into, but
Right.
a couple people, and I said, man, they live in Northumberland,
think
both of them, one of them is already retired. And I tell you, Susan, who the young lady is, she's gonna start the restaurant. That restaurant that,
Signets?
what is the name? It's gonna be Donna's, it's down on,
Oh, yeah.
Donna.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's classmate, she graduated the same year, but she lives in Northumberland, she bought a house in
She's
Indian
working
Creek.
here, though. She's got a business here.
Yeah, I mean, she was born, raised, went through school and all that stuff, yeah. But, you know, she might do it, you know, but she
We won't
retired.
hold it against her for going
So Jeff, thank you for bringing up the diversity issue. I think that's
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah.
Very important. Thank you.
And if I could just add to that really quickly, I think
Yeah.
one of the things that I'll recommend out of the communications strategy is for the subcommittees to do some of that diversity work, not necessarily with who's on the committee, but to do some vetting of their product with a diverse audience to kind of dry run the output before we get formally into the public arena. But if we can dry run what we're thinking with as diverse a group as we can, it'll flush out the naysaying points that we can address.
Yeah.
And it can involve more people during the process.
That's
Because
great.
we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And we don't want to
idea.
learn that in a mass communication way.
Uh-huh.
We want to learn that in small bites so that we can absorb it and react to it.
And that's very important, what you're saying, because I've been doing that with this recreation thing. You know, there's young black adults like the same thing as young white adults.
Right.
And of course, most of them is running together,
Yeah.
and that's good, that's a good thing.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
know, that's a very
Amen.
good thing, so.
Good.
But you gotta ask those kind of questions.
You're right. Thank you. Okay, so let's go ahead and adjourn the meeting, and hopefully we won't have as many challenges coming up with future meeting dates and getting our committees started. I really would like to see us get some committee work started as early as next week, if we can arrange some time. So thank you. Jeff, thank you for all your input today. I'm glad you were able to
Yeah, thank you all.
find a way to participate. It's been awesome. Thank you. All right, we'll stand adjourned.
Good meeting.